Good morning. Welcome to the Go Big with Leanne show. And we are so grateful to be here again today. And the whole purpose behind this show is empowerment through connection. So I'm a firm believer that life can just be amazing and can totally change just by meeting that one right person or learning that one right thing. So I'm pretty excited today. And sorry, guys, this may not be a conversation for you, but or maybe it is, because then you can help your wives if they're struggling. So today I have with me Angie, and she is the menopause coach. And so fascinating subject. And we met on Facebook. We've never physically met. We live a long ways away from each other, but we were started off in a Facebook group together of storytelling for entrepreneurs. So it's been fun to watch her on this journey. So Angie, I'm going to turn it over to you to just quickly introduce yourself and kind of tell us, how you got on this path of discovery of this topic, because that always fascinates me. Like, why did someone just wake up in the morning and decide this is what they want to do? So share with us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I don't think I left school thinking, right, I'm going to be a menopause coach. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I think they would have looked at me like I was nuts. It has been a bit of a journey to this point. It's not something I've always done, obviously. Being a woman of 40 myself, it is extremely relevant to me. So that has been part of why I do what I do. But really, it evolved so that I was able to help my clients more, because 6 years ago, time we were saying before, time just goes quick, doesn't it? I can't remember how many years ago it was now. 6-7 years ago, I was a personal trainer and looking more into coaching and nutrition coaching and helping women to lose a bit of weight and just to feel a bit healthier about themselves and just feel a bit more confident. And the more I helped women with that, the more I was understanding that it was clearly not just an exercise and a calorie thing. There was clearly more to it than my instructors had let on to me when I first learned all about that. So I was noticing that there was a lot of similarities as well between my female clients and myself. That mid 30s, 34, 35, I was noticing that weight can come on really quickly and it's quite difficult to lose sometimes. And no matter what you do, it's not always a case of trying to do the same things harder. Sometimes you've got to change your approach to it. And then it became less about the weight and more about how we feel about ourselves, because people don't just want to lose weight, do they? It's more about our confidence and how we feel within ourselves, and that reflection of how we look and what we see in the mirror. Is that who I want to be? Who is that representative of? And that there can be a bit of a mismatch, and I always find it fascinating to get into those conversations. So I was having these sometimes quite deep conversations with clients, and taking it from the gym floor and then onto coaching, like proper coaching, not the instructing stuff, but real coaching, and finding my feet with that, and then starting to learn how hormones fit into it all, because I was trying to do my best for my clients and I wanted to do a good job for them, because they were paying me money, but also I just felt like, I need to do this job to the best of my ability. I just had, because that's who I am, I just had that integrity. And also knowing that they were very, it was like a mirror for me as well. So I needed to get a handle on things for myself with PMT and mood swings and anxiety and all that kind of those hormonal shifts that were starting. So the more I was learning about all that in regards to weight and energy and sleep, the more I was noticing that a lot of the literature and the courses that I was taking, it was all about like the preparation of perimenopause, and then starting to think about it as something that isn't so scary and something that is more like something you can take control of a little bit more than is often let on by media, perhaps. And having a good understanding of it, but using that information of what might be coming up for us later, and using that in a way that is practical and guided and grounded in science, but taking a really natural approach, because that just sits really well with me. That's who I am. Barefoot and wet hair, and eating avocados for breakfast. That has always been who I've been. That I can't not be that person. So I started to kind of leverage all that to be able to help the women who were already asking for my help. And because I was talking about hormones, they were coming to me with menopause questions and perimenopause, and these words were coming up that were fairly new in the UK, not new to America. We had that perimenopause word come over from you guys. So it was a bit of a door opener. It was a real eye opener for me at that time. So for the last 5 years, I would say, I've really focused on perimenopause and now help women just with that. So it's women, tends to be in their late 40s, women who want to get in control of symptoms like weight gain can be part of it, but it's bigger than that. It's the anxiety, it's the low confidence, low energy, low motivation to do something about it. When you want to do something and you kind of know what you should be doing, but it's such a struggle to do it for long enough to actually make the difference to yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, I work with a lot of folks on weight loss, and they always say, well, I've tried everything, but they've never stuck to it long enough to really see the results. And I like that you bring up the point that, like I haven't really, I'm a woman. I should have taken the time to really educate myself about, some of the signs of perimenopause, or just the signs of, hey, the body's changing, because I think a lot of us think that anxiety, low confidence, lack of energy is something that we're embarrassed and we're not going to talk about. And we don't necessarily relate it to the hormones. We just relate it to, oh my God, I must be losing my mind or something. Why am I experiencing this? Because, what I see on TV, I should only be experiencing these things if something horrible has happened to me. So we don't relate, because from my understanding, like menopause happens like in your 50s, 60s or something. So most people aren't really thinking about the stuff that happens ahead of time. So, I kind of started educating myself, probably because of you, because it's like you brought the light to it. And I'm like, okay, maybe some of this anxiety and just, when your hormones are out of control, I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like someone needs to put chains around me, because I feel totally out of control, which is a horrible feeling, because you don't know where it's coming from. So when you realize that it's a physiological thing and it's not necessarily like a thought, it's not a mind thing, but it's a body thing. So would you agree with some of that of, most people are ignoring these signs and, these things that we can do something about?
Absolutely. Nobody wants to kind of admit to themselves, let alone me or anyone else, that they are old enough to be thinking about this kind of stuff. It's like the ultimate badge of, oh my God, I'm getting older. That means I am on the way out. It's all downhill from here. And that's how it's typically been seen, and kind of passed down generation to generation as something we don't talk about, and you just whisper it. And the change, we don't even call it menopause,
right?
And it's only quite recently that has changed, and we can give it a label, and we are starting to talk about it more, and I've done events over the past 4 or 5 years in cafes to really get these conversations going, to make it a normal topic of conversation, because definitely there are lots of women who just do not realize that they are heading into what could potentially be quite a storm with their eyes closed. And it is not for me to say, this is going to be shit. You really need to, you really need to batten down the hatches and, sort yourself out, because we don't know what it's going to be like. And I do not want to put the fear of God into people by giving them lists of potential symptoms and things, which Google can do and really scare people. I want to give people the reassurance that what they're feeling is probably normal, and it's probably going to last for a while, but then it will get better if we do X, Y, and Z. You know, yeah, there are lots of women in your situation who would much rather just put it to one side for 10 years and think of it as the old woman's problem. No offense, but that's how we've all kind of thought of it. We would rather not think of ourselves in that position. But the reality of it is that hormones start to change and prepare for perimenopause in our mid-30s. So if we ignore that fact, then we could end up making things worse for ourselves. And I feel a responsibility to tell people the truth and to give them kind of sandwich that, give it, like our friend says, a shit sandwich, give you some real positives within that, so that you've got it layered up as, here's what you can do about it, X, Y, and Z, let's get on with it now. So it's not just, oh God, it's not just a dread feeling of what's going to happen to me. I don't like to leave people in that lurch and leave them in that shitstorm that it can be.
Right. And I love that you're, taking the holistic approach, because, all of us know that, I mean, medications are necessary in a lot of situations, but they all have side effects. So for me personally, if I can do something holistically as natural as possible, then I'm all for that. And so I know some of the, things that we all can do is, a healthier diet, exercise, stress management. But if you could give a couple, just not to give your whole course away, but, some, a couple key takeaways that, if, first of all, have a conversation, because what I've learned over my years is when like I decide to speak up about something, then that allows other women to go, oh, I'm not alone in this. So if we would all just speak our truth of how we're really feeling, even if we can't put words to it, because a lot of times I couldn't put words to, like, something's not right in my body, but I can't put words to it. I just feel really out of control and my heart's racing. But if we open up that door to conversation, even if it's with 2 or 3 of your close friends, and then they open it up with a couple of their friends, then it doesn't become so taboo. And like you said, the old lady's problem. And the conversation is always, from my opinion, that is the starting point for change, that awareness, that conversation. But then what are some, simple things that, people can do, because I know your course is very practical. It's not like you're telling people they have to stand on their head for 3 hours a day and, hold their fingers a certain way or something. So it's, it's natural everyday things that are fairly easy to incorporate, as long as you have that support. Because I don't know, like in the US, a healthy lifestyle really isn't supported. You have to find your circle of influence. So maybe over where you're at, maybe it's a more healthier culture than here. But yeah, so give us some words of wisdom of some simple things people can do.
Yeah, I'm all about the simple and the practical. And I see the natural stuff goes really well with that. I like to take it back to basics. So I call it the 5 foundations, if you like. Part of my program is a base 30 days of working on these things, because I think when we start to notice some of these perimenopause symptoms, whether it's hot flushes, I mean, not everyone gets those, but it tends to be like periods changing, or sleep problems, or energy issues. They tend to be some of the issues that we notice first. Then we're looking for, so often I see it as looking for, what can I take to solve that? Like, what else can I do? What can I take to get rid of that problem? When really, if we zoomed out and look at the bigger picture, what that symptom is telling you, whatever it might be, I always see symptoms as like a signpost. It's pointing you towards something else is going on in the body that we need to look at. So it's not always a case of, right, what can I take? We can't really take a tablet or a herb or something like that. It's not always about that. It's more about what am I missing here? What in those 5 foundations am I not doing, and tweaking it towards a hormonal balance? So are we drinking enough water? I mean, it sounds so over simple. It sounds like, well, of course I am. how dare you say that? We all know we should drink enough water. I mean, how much is enough anyway? So that is one of the things that, yeah, exactly. And not reaching for the coffee first thing in the morning, but hydrating with water. I mean, if we don't have enough water so that your pee is clear or getting towards that way anyway, then nothing else can work very well in the body. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about hormones or not, but certainly the hormones are not going to be able to do their thing if we don't have the right levels of water in the body. And that is going to show up for things like brain fog and sleep problems, energy, you know, all things that overlap into perimenopause problems. So that's a really simple one to start with. And if you are kind of rolling your eyes at me at this point, thinking, yeah, I know all this, then just check yourself and just see if you actually are doing that every day and making it consistent. And then the other thing that we can do is start to introduce more vegetables into our diet. Now, just before we start talking about it's vegan and, you know, have I got to go on a raw food diet and is it better to go keto and all those kind of things, when I say more vegetables, what I'm saying is on your plate for each meal, certainly 2 meals out of the day, needs to have more vegetables on the plate than anything else. So just that simple, just making it like that. We can go into more detail and look at what the vegetables are, and we can say, well, it's got to be a pound of vegetables every day, and it's got to have color and blah 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 blah. But okay, we'll talk about that later down the line.
Right.
We can to tweak it a bit more, but just to start off, let's just turn towards thinking of more vegetables than fruit, more vegetables than sandwiches, or, you know, whatever your thing is. Then just check yourself and see over the course of a week what your daily pattern is, what the weekly tendency is, and then making a few little course corrections and adjustments there can be really simple and easy, but it does make a big difference in the long run. Because the hormones need that fiber, they need the minerals, and we're going to get more of that from the vegetables. So it just makes sense. It's just a logical step.
Yeah, and vegetables, fill us up, physically and then mentally. So if you're trying to, kind of watch your calorie intake, vegetables really need to be your friend because the mind likes to see a full plate. It doesn't like to see 3 ounces of protein and nothing else. That's not very satisfying to the mind. So yeah, vegetables really need to be our friend. And then, that, like you said, I always tell people, I said, if you're just starting this journey, just think of you're in kindergarten or your first year of school. So we have to meet you there and then bridge you to, adding the colors, adding the variety, adding the different textures and things like that. But first off, let's get the habit into place.
Exactly. Yeah. Because often there's a fear of, oh my God, I'm going to have to cook different meals for my family, to myself. Right. I like that and they don't like this. And so just really simplify it. Just add 1 extra vegetable onto your plate, whether that's raw or cooked or out of the freezer or whatever. So yeah, I'm always looking for the simple ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Because the big problem that we all come across and it just compounds all of our issues is stress. And by the time we've got to these perimenopausal years, which I am now knocking on the door of at age 40, it's happening, it's starting. That doesn't mean an early menopause, by the way. It just means that things are happening on the inside that haven't quite shown up for me on the outside yet, but it's on the way. So stress is going to compound all of those problems. It's going to just layer up, and I'm just going to topple over. So one thing that one of my teachers, a little phrase that she gave me when I learned all about this stuff, was to do your life laundry, but do it in small, manageable piles. So it doesn't feel like you're tackling something major. You don't have to change your job and leave your husband all in 1 week.
Right.
You don't have to leave him at all, but just start small.
Yeah.
Just pick up the socks to start with, just
right.
Whatever those little things are that are really niggling at you at the moment, get it all down on paper or talk to a friend about it. Like we were saying, there's a lot of value in being able to have honest conversations, with whether that's with other people or with yourself, first and foremost, or with your partner, people that you live with, and looking at where those stresses come in, and really being able to be the observer of those, which is a skill. That's a learned skill, to see what is going on and what you can then, what would be the options that you've got to be able to start to clear up those little piles of life laundry that are scattered around you and have been piling up for some years now, if we are all honest. I know it's the same for me. That's why I can talk about it and laugh about it, because I exactly the same. But if we let these things pile up, and it can be the daftest thing, like, I don't know, having pictures on the walls that you didn't pick, you didn't choose, or you wanted a different one, or the color of the walls, or some clothes in your wardrobe that remind you of some times that you didn't particularly like yourself, or a job that you've left and you haven't got good memories of. Little things like that will have an impact. And as daft as it sounds, when we start to address those things, it gives us the courage to then tackle something bigger. It's a bit like rolling a snowball, and we just make it bigger and bigger, and you get the confidence back in yourself, and you get that feeling of being able to trust yourself again. And that is a massive bonus for going towards menopause, having that intuition and being able to trust it, because you really are going to need that as we go forward.
Yeah, I always say, we got to pick the low-hanging fruit, so if you're really struggling in life, don't try to go to the end goal that you're reaching for. You got to grab that low-hanging fruit, because it builds your confidence. It gets you in that movement mode, because when you're stuck, you're in a rut. Like, it's been raining really hard and you're trying to get your car out of that mud rut, and it's virtually impossible. So you got to give it a little nudge of something that is fairly easy to do. And then from there, you gain that confidence to take on a little bit bigger task. And I love that you said that, even, I mean, your personal environment, I think a lot of times we don't give it much credit, but your personal environment can be the biggest obstacle of you making other changes. So, we got to have that self-awareness. Like you said, I always say, like, be your own private investigator. So step out of your life, get your binoculars, like you're spying on somebody, and find those, like, oh man, I didn't notice that. Because most of us are just, we're trying to pay our bills, take care of our family, take care of parents, or whatever we're doing. And we're just racing through life. So we're not paying attention to those finer moments of our life. And I'm a firm believer, it's usually not a big obvious thing. Sometimes there is, but most of the time there's these little pebbles in the bottom of our shoe that we can either dump out and address, or we can continue to walk with the pebbles in our shoe, because we don't want to take the time to dump the stuff out of our shoes. So, keep it simple, keep it manageable for yourself. Don't compare yourself to someone else, because everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different, and how we handle things is definitely going to be different. So just take those baby steps, and then celebrate when you've made an accomplishment. If you go 5 days and you eat 2 vegetables at every meal, like Angie suggested, take the time to go, yes, I did it, and honor that progress that you made. Because that's the other thing that I see a lot of times. We only focus on the things that we didn't do. At the end of the week, we're like, oh man, I sucked at this and I sucked at that. But what did you do well? Give yourself credit for the things that you did well, and then say, well, what could I do better, tomorrow? So instead of being so hard and judgmental on yourself, just ask, what can you do better?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. And women in particular are really shit at that.
Yes.
I know, because I'm a woman.
Right.
I've spoken to a lot of women over the years who confide in me all sorts of ways, and at the bottom of it all, there tends to be this feeling of not being good enough, of not having enough, of not coming up trumps when chips are down, and somehow not rising to whatever challenge it might be, and they judge themselves so harshly for it. And it's really easy for me on the outside to be able to see when they're doing that, and point it out to them kindly and in a way that's going to help them move forward from it, and find better ways of dealing with those issues. But it's exactly the same for me. I still catch myself with that sometimes. But I find as we transition through menopause, that does seem to improve. It does, as we get towards the other side and post-menopause. Incidentally, we still can have symptoms even when the periods have stopped. If we haven't done something about it, they can still hang around. But I do see that confidence within people, and I'm not entirely sure why that is yet. I'm still kind of researching that and looking at different clients to see the different patterns, and then experiencing it for myself. That's going to be the ultimate, isn't it? But
Right.
that does seem to be a pattern that it gives us that boost. I think it's partly to do with the changes in estrogen being a bit of a nurturing hormone. It gives us our curves, it gives us our lovely shape and our skin and our hair and things like that, all the womanly features of us. And when we have less of that, we are still all woman. We still have the lovely skin and the hair, and it's just different. We are still the same person on the inside. There are some shifts that have changed and happened, but we're still there underneath. We've just maybe grown out of a different shell. We've just changed a little bit, but it's still us on the other side. And having less of that nurturing hormone, it starts to then feel, I see it in women, that nudge towards, right then, what about me now? And I think that's wonderful. I encourage that independence. I think it's great.
Yeah. So do you believe that movement is a big part of, the preventative type maintenance for perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, definitely. And not for the way that you're probably thinking. It's not a great weight loss tool.
Right.
Movement is absolutely essential. It does tend to be a time in our lives when we're doing a lot of sitting, when we're quite sedentary, for lots of different reasons that I won't go into. But we need that movement. We need the joint lubrication. We need movement for our head as much as our body, and that stress management. And to be able to sleep well, we need to move, get outside, get the daylight in. When it comes to weight management, it's part of the tool pack, but it's not the be all and end all. But movement is absolutely, it's non-negotiable, but it's not always a case of more is better. It's looking at what types you're doing and how we might be able to tweak that to be a bit more hormone friendly in some cases. And for some women, it's about the reassurance that they are doing the right thing, that sometimes they say, what else can I be doing? Or I haven't got time to fit in an hour's workout every day, or whatever it might be. So we're looking at ways to leverage the time they have got, to use that time effectively in ways that feel good to them, because that's the other thing about movement. It's got to feel good. It's got to feel nourishing. And I see that as, over the years, here again, another bit of personal experience is that exercise does sometimes become a bit of a tool to berate ourselves, a tool to say, when I've done this, then I'll be proud of myself.
Right.
Why aren't I proud of myself anyway, even if I don't do the exercise? You've got to look at these questions. But as a whole, yeah, you're right. Menopause is a time when we need that movement for lots of different reasons.
Very good. So this may sound like an odd question, but most women have men in their life. And of course, we can barely understand what's going on with us. So do you have any words of wisdom of how we can put words to our male people in our life that that would help them understand, because a lot of times it can create a lot of friction in a relationship, because it's not like something that just happens a week. I mean, it can be a 10-year, 15-year time span when things are really changing a lot for the female. And not, I mean, men have changes as well, but you know, what can we say to them to keep it simple enough that they would understand our position a little bit better?
Yeah, that's a good point. I have had a few sessions over the years with husbands and partners for them. I love it when they come to talks and stuff, and they have that interest. But first off, if there is a way for our male partners, the men in our lives, in some way for them to understand that this is really happening. It's not in our head. It's not something, like you say, it's not going to blow over in a week. It's not one of those, oh, it's your hormones, let's all have a snigger.
Right.
And how we approach that is going to be quite individual for every person, because men tend, their brains are kind of wired a bit differently. They want to fix stuff. They want to understand, but they want to solve the problems for us. If we present a problem to them, they kind of feel that's their job. So it's going to be quite an individual conversation, but we do need them to understand that there are things they can do to help. There are things that they can do to feel still part of the family, because it changes the relationship in many cases. It changes how we communicate, because we can get irritable, we can get angry, we can get PMT or PMS, as you call it. We can turn the dial up on that without us even like having major control over it. It feels like it's happening to us.
Right.
So the guys need to know that it's not about them. We're not angry at them, although it kind of can be expressed in that way, but it's not all about them. So don't take it personally. So having the conversations when we feel in the right place to do that. Don't wait until things are a problem. Don't wait until you're in the middle of that big argument and you're blowing your top and the volcano's erupting. When you're feeling calm and you sat on the sofa chilling out, or find the right moment. I don't know when that will be for you, because that's different for every couple, but you need to find those moments. And it doesn't have to be all boring and serious, but you know, they need to understand. And maybe part of it is watching interviews like this, getting an understanding of it. Of course, I'm going to plug my book as well, the manual. They can have a read of that. They can order that on my website that you've got the link up for there. That would be a fantastic thing for all men to read. There are lots of books out there, of course, not just mine, but the manual is aimed at anyone who needs an understanding of what's going on and what to do about it. And there's a chapter at the end, and there are some information, some practical guided things to do in there to feel that the communication is still happening, that it's still effective, that you feel heard and understood by everybody in your life. So that would be my start and a plug as well.
Yeah, very good. Well, and I think that's a good point, because I mean, not only do, you know, as a female, I need to take responsibility for educating myself and doing everything that I can do, because I can't just expect my husband to sit back and educate and then just me be passive about it. So I think it's, you know, if you have a good, healthy relationship, it'd be good for both of you to be involved in the process of the understanding that things are changing, because it's going to impact, you know, what impacts me is going to impact him. And what impacts him impacts me, and then it impacts our whole family. So I think, you know, the education and that open conversation, because, you know, I don't know about you, but whenever a guy says to me, oh, it must be that time of the month. Oh, wow. That's like the worst thing you could ever say to a woman. And it's the worst thing you say, partly because it's true, because we know, you know, we know that we're out of, well, like for me, I know I'm out of control, but I can't, it's like I have an alien in me, you know, it's like acting out. And it's very hard for someone to understand that hasn't like had that experience. So, but I don't want to just write that off of like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it, because there's plenty that I can do about it. But again, our partner needs to understand that, yeah, we may be a little more touchy during that time. And let's work together on this process and educate ourselves, and both of us work on stress management, eating a healthier diet, getting that movement in. And I always say that I exercise for the safety of others, because I've always felt that way. It's always been a good outlet for me, because I'm a really high energetic kind of just go 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 person. And then if I don't have that outlet, my mouth can get me in a lot of trouble. So that movement or that exercise is very important. And I just love that you have taken this challenge on for yourself, to be the voice of women, and to support women and their partners in this journey of this time of change. Because, when I feel good, I do good. And when I feel out of control, that's just not a good place for me to be going to work. It's not a good place to be, around my grandkids or whomever. So I feel a strong personal responsibility to, figure out what's going on and how I can address it in a healthy, holistic way, so I can do better for my community. And God knows that, around the world, we need as much healthy energy, positive focus, that we all can stand up and be our best self, to be able to make a difference, that we're all, because everybody has their own role and purpose this time around on this earth. So feel good, do good. And the diet changes that you recommend, I mean, those would be great for the men in our life. It's not like these things that you recommend, they'd be good for anybody, regardless of where you're at in your life. But especially if you're at this point, these things are things that you can do. So
yeah. There's lots of little things like that. Obviously, vegetables are my starting point, because they are the key, really, to start to turn the lock that's going to help us to feel more in control. And then we can start to tweak things, start to look at protein intake, and not like, oh, it's got to be all about the protein. We're not talking about going keto, Atkins. Right. It's not a diet. It's more about blood sugar balance, because when we're talking about those feelings within us of irritation and just loss of control, we've got to support ourselves on the inside, and we've got to look at brain health, cellular health, if you like. So we need the fats, we need the fatty acids, so oily fish we need, and we need seeds as well, so sesame seeds, pumpkin, flax. I sprout my own seeds as well, so things like red clover and kale and broccoli, lentil. So I'm not putting those in soil, I'm putting those in water. And you get the little sprouts coming up at the top, little shoots sprouting out of the seed. It literally happens in 3 days, and then you can eat them. It's amazing. So it's ultimate, really ultimate nutrition, from kitchen to fork. So it's really cool. So little hacks like that. I don't really like to call it a hack, but little additions that are going to support the hormonal balance, because hormonal balance, it's one of those terms that we use a lot, but what the hell does it mean? There isn't really a balance, because it's constantly on the move, even when we are in our menstrual times, even when we're in our 20s and everything is optimally fertile, we've still got a hormonal balance that does this every month. So actually what we're really aiming for is harmony. It sounds really like hippy dippy, and I'm not quite that. I'm holistic, as in I will consider the spirituality side, but I'm not completely off the scale. As far as I go, Reiki is about the limit of my take on that, but I do like to see more of a range of mind, body and spirit in that way. So we're looking at ways to nourish ourselves in all three realms. So the food comes into that in a big scale. So we're looking at the seeds that help with that, the fats and the proteins, having enough water in our diet to start with. That is absolutely crucial.
So how much is enough water?
It varies. It varies on body size, on activity level. Generally, I start off with saying 2 liters of water a day for everyone as a starting point, because if I just say drink enough water or drink more water, what does we need?
Right.
Something to aim for. We need a target to go to. But really, it does vary a lot. But if your pee is clear or very pale, straw-coloured, it's not rocket science. We've been
Right.
told that information for decades now. It's still valid. It's still very much valid. But it's more than just being healthy and healthy eating, because even things like heart health, the number one killer for women. If we are dehydrated, we are leaning towards heart problems and cardiovascular issues, and nobody wants that. We can avoid that so easily. So yeah, it's always going to start with the water for me.
Yeah, very good. And I know I have a lot of clients who I don't like water. And I said, well, I don't like a lot of things, but I do them anyways. And because, we need to do them. So, it's just kind of kick that thinking to the side and just drink your water, put a lemon in it if you need to, whatever, drink it room temperature, drink it cold, lots of ice, no ice, find a way that works. And I think for most people, it's easiest to measure if you have like, say you drink 2 or 3 of these a day. So then you just know that you've done it, because a lot of times we think we've done well, but then we're like, oh, well, no, I probably didn't. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, just put on your big girl panties and drink your water,
Yeah.
I have a military background, so I can be, fairly direct with people, but it's those things would just, I don't know, you can't really compromise on them. Some of the basics, you just have to figure out a way to get it done. And, an easy way for healthy hacks is to attach it to a habit you're already doing. So like before I allow myself to have my coffee in the morning, I have to drink 8 to 10 ounces of water. And so that's just part of my morning routine. And, could I do better? Probably, but that's a good start. I'm not just dumping coffee into a dehydrated body that just woke up. So, and then that's a reward. So once I've drank my water, then I get my coffee. So try to attach it. And if you're, God forbid, if we drink soda, but you could say before I can have my iced tea or sugar tea or whatever it is, you have to have all your water in. So kind of create a little bit of reward system for yourself. And I find that helpful anyways. So, because that's kind of how we're wired.
Yeah. I think you're right. And picking up on that point as well, it just reminded me of you sounded like me a little bit. Something I say, if we're doing it all, something that we're doing already, why don't we just improve on that? Like we all eat.
Right. Yeah.
I think most of us eat. Most of us eat 2 meals a day. Most of us eat probably more than like 3 meals a day. So why don't we just upgrade maybe one of those meals for now?
Right.
It's not too difficult, because I see a lot of women, and this is the majority of my clients now, who are looking to or think that they need to take big steps forward, because where they're at the moment feels so crappy, with energy and anxiety and sleep and weight that's just crept on over the years, all sorts of issues that they're struggling with. But to get to where they want to be, to feel how they want to feel about themselves, feels so far away that they've got to take these massive leaps forward. And to go from sitting on the sofa eating half a packet of biscuits to having kale salads and smoothies and stuff, it's just like, whoa, it's trying to learn Mandarin in a week. It's just too overwhelming, and you are never going to master it that way. So I help to scale it back. So, we're already eating food, so let's just upgrade that a tiny amount. Let's go from 2 out of 10 to 3 out of 10. What is that going to look like for you? Not for next door, not for me 10 years ago, not for my sister, but for me. What can I do about this so that you're starting to take control? And that can be applied to the water intake, food, sleep habits, exercise, the ways that we manage stress, all sorts of things, but all about nourishing mind, body, soul. It's all this holistic approach to it, that is the foundation, really, because it's not a case of I'll take X and then I'll get rid of Z and I'll feel Y. You know,
Right.
it's a weird jigsaw that we've got to put together, all these pieces back together again, inside a body that is essentially changing, and we need to accept that, but not lie over and just accept it as in, oh, well, nothing I can do.
Right.
That really bugs me.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a destination. And I see that, like you said, we have to kick the all or nothing thinking to the curb. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing, because no matter what you're doing, you're making some progress. So it's about progress, not perfection. There's no cheating. There just is decisions and responsibility for those decisions. So take personal responsibility and just do the best you can each day. Set the intention that you want to feel better each day, and then create a few behaviors that equals that, because we can talk about it, for the next 7 years. If we don't ever take that first step, then we're not ever going to receive the change. So, Angie, I really greatly appreciate you being here today and sharing your wealth of information. And you've got a great website that they can learn more about you and order your book and get started with you coaching. You have a Facebook page that they can connect with you as well. And so what parting words would you want to say to our audience today of, just your call to action, or whatever you want to leave with folks today?
Yeah, sure. So if you feel compelled to start thinking about what this all means for you and how you might be able to start having these conversations more in a personal way, that feels good, and in a way that takes action, not just information, because information without action is just useless. So
right.
So let's take the action. If you're ready for it, then you can go to my website. You can download a free guide. There's a free report just at the top of the page, and there's some actionable steps in there. I give you my 10 best tips. Even if you do 3 of those for a week, you are guaranteed to feel better. Honestly, that's not like a gimmick thing. I'm not a gimmick person.
No, she's not.
Not who I am. So just go to the guide, do what it says, and you will feel better. If you want to have conversations about it with me, with other people like you who want to do it naturally, then come over to my Facebook group. There's a free group called Menopause Done Naturally.
Very good. Well, again, thank you for being here. And thank you, everybody who showed up for the Go Big with Leanne show. And we'll have more fun guests like Angie next week. And so you guys all have a good weekend. And I hope, for your sake and for the sake of your family and friends, that everybody will take the water step and the vegetable step. Just start small. All right, everyone, take care. Have a great day.